Governor Romney and I also spoke at length about the stare down between the aisles in Congress over Obamacare and the possibility of a government shutdown on Tuesday.
We'd like to see Obamacare go away. Now the question is, what's the best tactic? What's the best vehicle to try and make that happen? So my tactic would be different. But that doesn't mean I don't respect and honor the fact that other Republicans are choosing other tactics that they think are effective, because we agree on the objective. The objective is to stop Obamacare because it is going to hurt the American people. That's the message that Ted Cruz got out with his quasi-filibuster.
It's helping millions of Americans who didn't have insurance who now do, the ones whose the Medicaid rolls have been expanded.
Let's go through and look through. First of all, a lot of people who don't have insurance still have health care because they go to the emergency room to get health care and are not denied health care. We had that in my state before we had the plan we now have.
But you know that that's lousy. That means that I end up paying for their health care because
now you're raising the question of who pays for it.
Right.
And so I think there are better ways than having you pay for someone else's health care.
Okay.
Coming back to the question of Obamacare, the issue that Ted Cruz got out, and that I think virtually all Republicans, elected Republicans, agree on, is that Obamacare is going to be hurtful to a lot of families. It's going to raise their premiums. In many cases, they're going to lose the insurance that they wanted to have, and they're going to get a new plan they don't particularly like. And you see a number of folks losing a 40-hour-a-week job to getting a 29.5-hour-a-week job so that companies won't have to abide by the mandate. This is going to hurt a lot of American families, and Republicans are saying, hey, we got to stop this. We got to help the American people.
How is it different from what you did here, though? This is a state that a lot of people consider to be a model for Obamacare because of the law you passed. How is what's going on here different?
Well, there's some wonderful differences. First of all, we don't have in my state people losing jobs, 40-hour-a-week jobs, going down to 29.5-hour-a-week jobs as a result of the bill that we passed. We didn't have to raise new taxes on providers and device manufacturers, which the president does. We didn't have the kind of increase that you're seeing in premiums that many families are facing.
You brought up Ted Cruz. There are Republicans in the establishment in Washington who look at Ted Cruz, look at the House Republicans who are part of the Tea Party caucus, who are perceived as forcing Speaker Boehner's hand, and some people call them the suicide caucus. Are you concerned about this forceful group of Republicans in Washington?
Well, again, we're all fighting for the same thing, which is finding a way to repeal or replace, or repair, slow down Obamacare.
Those are all many different things, though.
We don't like Obamacare and would like to see a different course taken, and there are differences of opinion as to which tactics will be most effective. I look at Senator Cruz and say, look, you give him credit for standing up and speaking for 20+ hours. You give him credit for bringing attention to a very important issue. I have a harder time seeing where a shutdown leads, because I don't know that you're going to get a Democrat Senate and a Democrat president to say, okay, fine, we'll get rid of Obamacare. I think there's a better way of getting rid of Obamacare, my own view, and that is one, delaying it by at least a year. The other would be potentially working hard to get Republicans elected to the House and Senate and being able to do it in a traditional way. So that's the approach I'd take. But look, we're all on the same page as to where we want to get, and I'm not going to get too animated about the tactics of one Republican versus another. Time will tell who's been the most effective in trying to get this very unfortunate piece of legislation stopped in its tracks.
The debt ceiling debate is going to be even bigger probably than the government shutdown debate. You're somebody who invests money and has built a very successful career doing that. You know what the debt ceiling really means. It's not just a tactic. It's something that could harm the economy, did last time when our bond rating went down, and the United States has ended up having to pay higher rates because of what happened.
The reason the United States had a credit rating downgrade and interest rates were affected was not because of that issue. The reason was, of course, that Congress and the president continued to spend massively more than we take in, and we're printing money like crazy to try and get this economy going.
I think it was both, though. Didn't they say that it was that one of the reasons was because of the political dysfunction? They didn't think there would be a solution.
There's no question, but the political dysfunction is the cause of many of the problems of the country. And leadership is what is able to break through the kind of dysfunction you're saying. And unfortunately, we haven't seen the kind of leadership from the White House. The president spends his time attacking the opposition party and ascribing malevolent intent to their values and their purposes. And that's, in my opinion, an enormous mistake in his part. You've got to reach across the aisle.
The 2016 Republican presidential nominee comes to you and says, "What's the biggest mistake you made that I can learn from?" What do you tell him or her?
Well, I think our biggest strategic error, I mean, I made a lot of personal errors that, any human being is going to make, but the largest strategic error was not investing sufficiently, particularly in Hispanic TV and Hispanic outreach, to help Hispanic voters understand that ours is the party of opportunity, that ours is the party that will help them have a brighter future, better jobs, better future for their kids. We didn't do that as well as we could have, and we didn't counter some of the very effective, attack ads that came through Hispanic TV. They ran more effective ads, and they made a bigger effort with the Hispanic voters than we did, and we need to fix that.
But on the Latino vote, wasn't one of the problems is Republicans and you were seen as against immigration reform, against a bipartisan comprehensive effort, and they understood the policy, they disagreed with it.
Well, I think our position was mischaracterized by the opposition. Look, I want to see immigration reform. I said that during the campaign. I have thoughts about how to do that. I think Republicans and Democrats have to come together in Washington with presidential leadership to say, with the president pushing his own party, not just pushing on Republicans and saying, "Oh, you're the bad guy." No, pushing his own party to say, "Look, we've got to come together here because people in both parties want to see immigration reform, and the people of America deserve to have it."